In the properties of your Eloquent model, you may find fillable arrays. And this is the array by default Laravel project. I didn't change that at all. In the user model, you have 3 fillable fields. So what are fillables? How do they actually work? And what other alternatives? Basically, this means that these fields are possible to provide when creating new object with Eloquent. What do I mean? I've created a testing route, temporary route with home controller, and I will show you 2 ways how to create a new user. The first one is user create, and you provide the array of parameters. The second one, you create the object manually and then assign the value to each property and then hit save. Probably most people like the first one more because it is shorter and you don't need to repeat user, but let's take a look at the difference between those, and this is actually related to fillables. So I've launched that project test homepage. It doesn't return anything. Now let's take a look at the database. So we have the users database table, 2 users, but see the difference. Email verified add is null for the first user and it is filled for the second user. Let's take a look at the code again. As you can see, email verified add is provided here and here in both places. What is the difference? Have you noticed? Email verified add is not in the fillables. So if you want to create Eloquent objects like this with this syntax, you need to make sure that all of those fields are in the fillables, except for ID and timestamps like created at and updated at, which are automatically in the fillables. You don't need to care about that. And the worst part here is that it didn't throw any error. The page loaded successfully. It just didn't save the field. But you can tell Eloquent to be more strict with that. In the latest Laravel versions, in 9.35 from what I remember, you can provide in the app service provider a thing called model should be strict. Model, Eloquent model should be strict, but should be strict probably only on your local environment to throw exceptions. So if not environment production, like this, that should be strict actually contains 3 checks. One of them is about fillables. If we take a look at that should be strict inside, this one prevents silently discarding attributes. And if we try again now with our models strict on local machine, I refresh the page and I see the exception. So then Laravel would not allow you to provide the field without it being in the fillables, and it will kind of scream at you, please add the fillable property. Now there's alternative syntax. If you don't want to add fillables every time with every field, you can provide the opposite. The opposite of fillable is called guarded. Guarded, you can provide array of fields which will not be fillable. So typically how I've seen people do that is just this: guarded empty array, or maybe sometimes you guard the ID field, which shouldn't be fillable because it is autocomplete. And then if we repeat the same thing, we refresh, success, and in the database we refresh and we have both models with email verified add, although email verified add is not in the fillables. I didn't change anything in the controller. I've just changed fillables to guarded. So if you are kind of lazy, I would say, to provide the fillables, or you expect a lot of changes in the model and there's a risk that you may forget to add to the fillables, you can use guarded.